Hello, everyone. Andy Fox here, and welcome to this edition of Inside the Investigation. Today, we are turning our attention to the killing of Aaron Smalls back in January of 2001, turn of the year 2001. Joining me is Jesse Taylor. Thank you for being with us, investigator. This is investigator Jesse Taylor with the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office. Now, investigator, is it okay if I call you Jesse? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Investigator. Jesse, what can you tell us about Aaron Smalls?
Well, to start from the beginning, we have to go before we even knew he was a victim of the homicide. We have to go a few days prior to this actually being realized to have been a homicide, and when his family was with him, spending time with him right after Christmas, right after the New Year's. And one day on the 25th of January, he decides to leave the house just to go put some minutes on his cell phone. He leaves the house, and then on February 6th, he is then found dead in the trunk in an apartment complex off of Tam O'Shanter in York County.
Okay, we have some video. 10 on Your Side was actually at the scene back there in 2001. This is Aaron Lamont Smalls. What's this?
This is actually the vehicle that he was found in that apartment complex. This isn't on site. As you see the tape on the vehicle, this is after we had sealed it, brought it to our facility so that we can go into it a little further and collect some evidence at that time.
What was the evidence you can see the fingerprint dust everywhere on that car. Did you get anything from the prints?
So going back to what I said when he went missing on the 25th, he was actually noticed to have been dropped off at that apartment complex on the 25th by some people who lived in the area and management of the facility. But it was cold at the time. So it wasn't noticed that there was anything strange with that vehicle until the 6th of February when we went out there for a recovery of our stolen vehicle, because this vehicle was later reported as stolen. When we went out there, because it had sat for so long, there was some evidence to be collected from the vehicle, but it was obvious at the time that most likely the vehicle had been cleaned, the interior and the exterior, from prints. So you do see a lot of latent print dust on that vehicle, but there's nothing to associate with a person.
And we're going to progress to what eventually happens, but who reported the car stolen?
His girlfriend, and he's actually the person who bought that vehicle for her. It was only like $300, and he bought it for her several months prior to this incident.
Now, you're referring to the girlfriend as V only.
Yes.
What was V able to tell you about this situation?
So V was able to give us some information about kind of fill in some of the timeline. We realized that he obviously was unfortunately killed sometime around the 25th of January. But what actually occurred in the timeline of incidents being reported to law enforcement, and it all started in Newport News, was a stolen vehicle on the 26th, which is that vehicle that he's found in. On the 27th, the day after the vehicle was reported stolen, he is reported missing. And that's when we start having to go back to get that timeline as where was he last seen, who was he last seen by. And that was his brother, Omar Smalls, who had saw him actually going out from the house that they were staying at in order to put some minutes on his cell phone, because this is back in the day when that was a common practice.
So he is last seen at the residence on January 25th.
Yes.
He is then reported missing, and the car is reported stolen. What is the timeline between those two events?
So the timeline between those two events.
I think you just referred to it.
Yeah, I did. The 25th, the day that he was last seen.
25th.
Yep.
Got it.
The 26th, the very next day, the car is reported stolen. And then the 27th, the day after that, is when he's reported missing. Now, the interesting thing
what
about
happened between the car stolen on the 26th, okay, and his being reported missing?
So on the 25th, he's seen by witnesses, or that vehicle is seen by witnesses at that apartment complex being dropped off, where it remains until his body is discovered in that vehicle.
Yeah, that's what we were getting to. Let's go ahead and roll that video again. Now, at some point, you are called to the car because it's reported stolen.
Yeah, the investigations it was going to be a couple of investigators who have since either retired or have been promoted up.
Now, tell me what happens when they go to the car because it's reported stolen, and what do they find?
So originally, because it's reported stolen, they're just doing a recovery for the apartment complex. Upon further inspection of the vehicle, nobody is noticed at first, and that's one of the reasons why it wasn't reported earlier. Once they actually go into the vehicle, they're able to find his body inside the vehicle and face down.
What was the shock of that?
Well, the shock of that was,
Because they opened it up. Who opened it up?
so believe it or not, it was actually V and her family. They get there for a recovery of a stolen vehicle. So we're working to recover stolen vehicle. No knowledge of anybody else or anything else going on with that vehicle. The trunk is opened, and that's when the body is discovered, and then it turned into the homicide investigation.
And what did V say when she opened the trunk and found the body?
And she was extremely emotional, and she was very cooperative with providing information such as timelines, when he was last seen, the fact that he typically did drive this vehicle at times, but there was no known suspect at the time.
Right. Now, how he got in the car and left with the car.
Yes, that's what's believed.
Okay. He did that. And then what happened? Have you been able to piece together where he went, who he saw, anything like that?
So we actually, at the time, our office went out to several different stores in the area because he went missing in Newport News. So we had to go into Newport News, around where he was residing at the time, and see if any of the shops in the area where the brother said he was going to go put minutes on his phone.
Because this goes into what his movements of the day when he disappeared.
Yep. So we were trying to figure out if he had actually been seen by anyone performing any of those acts he said he was going to go do. He also said he was going to be right back. So he left that day to go do that, and he was never seen again. We weren't able to find any place that had any knowledge of him coming in to add minutes onto a phone or any other dealings with him at that time.
All right. Now, when and how was the vehicle located? Once again.
So the vehicle was located on February 6th of 2001. And it was located when property management of that apartment complex actually
Abandoned
called
vehicle.
it in. Yep.
Yes.
So deputies respond out there. They see that it is a reported stolen vehicle. They start working it as a recovered stolen vehicle, calling the victim of that, which would have been V, out to the scene to collect that.
And when he was found with a single gunshot wound to the chest. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
Was there anything else found in the trunk that was helpful?
The only things that were found in the trunk that were helpful was that he was missing one blue slipper.
Yes.
And also we had a cell phone. The cell phone, I cannot confirm at this time. I'm actually working on that right now to see if this was his cell phone. At the time, there was a little bit, it was harder to get some of the information off of cell phones back then as compared to now.
You are taking me along the road here because I wanted to talk about the blue slipper. We are going to talk about the blue slipper and how that figures or does not figure into this investigation. And we will be back right after this. And welcome back, everyone, to Inside the Investigation. We are speaking with investigator Jesse Taylor from the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office. Now, in our last segment, we were getting to the part about the blue slipper.
Yes.
People are just tuning in. What's the blue slipper? You found one, and then we're going to ask you where you found the other one, which is part of the investigation.
So there was a blue slipper that was found inside of the trunk. It was what he was claimed to have been wearing by his brother when he was last seen that day.
Yeah, along
On the
with
25th.
Aaron Smalls, who's also found in the trunk. He
Exactly.
probably has the slipper on, right? And
It's not on his foot, but it's actually the one that was seen that he was wearing at the time that he was
Okay.
last seen. So
Now-
when he was
but only one,
only one.
because you know my next question.
Where was the other one? Okay. Well, the other one was found in the field not nearby there. So we were able to not identify it directly. It was the same type of slipper. It was in an area that didn't make a whole lot of sense, and it was provided to us by another law enforcement officer who was most likely working the case on, in the sense of he was a missing person. So we were able to possibly connect those. We still are working towards that right now because at the time, technology, and advancements in DNA collection and stuff like that was not as good as what it is now. So within the past several months, since I've started working this case, I've sent some stuff off to the lab for further analysis to see if we can gather more information to give us those leads that we need.
Hey, investigator, I just got to go back to this slipper in the field. What needle in a haystack? I mean, you've explained that he was investigating out there in the field. Did he know that blue slipper was important?
I believe so. I believe so. So
he's in a field and all of a sudden he finds a blue slipper.
Yeah. So we have basically decided at this point that, obviously a homicide had occurred. We didn't know exactly where. There were signs that it occurred somewhere else, obviously, besides the fact that he's inside of a vehicle deceased, and we don't believe it to have happened inside the vehicle. But we also found things on him, such as dirt, debris, stuff like that, that showed that this was something that occurred somewhere and that he was then transported to that location where he was found.
Right. Is whatever happened to him happened in that field? Was there any blood found?
So there's a possibility for that. So one thing
shell
that
casings.
That's one of the things investigators did back then that was very helpful. They actually collected soil samples from that area. They also collected a single shell casing. Now that shell casing was in very rough shape. Now the shell casing came years after the fact, so we're still collecting evidence years after the fact.
Wow. And they with a metal detector and they find the shell casing. One. Was it a big field?
It was not an area that people would typically travel. It was not a field in the sense of one that you would see people normally hanging out or enjoying the scenery in.
From your notes, you write, the position of the body and the overall condition of the scene led detectives to believe Aaron may have been shot somewhere else and then placed in the trunk. And I asked you the question, was he shot in the field?
Yeah.
And then you got soil samples.
Yeah.
Anything back from that?
Nothing back from that. So that's what I was saying about technology and advancements thereof. So we have more ability to try to possibly connect the two areas. I'm not saying that is the area that it occurred, but we're going to be working towards that to answer those questions now.
The fact that the blood, let's say, for the sake of argument, is found in the dirt, doesn't that kind of contaminate the opportunity to get DNA?
So it's actually not blood in the dirt. So we take soil samples from the area where things are located, such as slippers, things like that. And then what we're going to look for is the stuff that's also found on his person. Like I said, there was debris that was found on his back. And if we can match those two, so it's going to be, it could be anything from pollen, hair fibers, all sorts of things are going to be mixed in with this. And we're going to be looking at those things to see if we can match them from one area to another.
But that he may have been shot somewhere else. And again, he may have been shot there or not shot there.
Correct.
Okay. And you haven't received anything back that suggests he was shot there, except
Nothing
you got
yet.
this slipper.
Yes.
So he had to have been there.
Well, and that's the thing. We have to tie that slipper to him before we can say that for sure. But in all actuality, we don't know that slipper came from him. It appears to be the exact same type of slipper. There's nothing that DNA said back then that could tell us that it was something that he was wearing. That is something that we're going to try to solve at this point. See if we can answer that with any sort of assurance now that the technology has gotten better for us to test things.
That theory was supported by the fact that the car had been parked and left untouched for quite some time before being discovered.
Yes.
Now, but that car was not discovered at the field.
No, it was not.
That was driven somewhere else.
Correct.
Is it possible that he is put in the car, or he had left in the car, right? He had left in the car. Somehow, someone overtakes him. He's still in the car. Someone's following in another car. They go out to that field. They pull him out of the car. They shoot him. They put him in the trunk. And one of the slippers is left in the field where that car was taken.
Is that possible?
Am I
Yes.
crazy?
No, that is a possibility. And there's many different possibilities and many different theories.
Because that does
go behind
put that
this.
slipper there.
It could.
That it had been on his foot when he left. Because he had the other one in the trunk of the car.
That is a possibility.
Okay, keep going. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, so
The blue slipper.
Yeah, the blue slipper plays a role in this, and we're trying to solve that right now. We also have the cell phone, which we're going to...
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Go ahead.
What are you doing to solve the mystery of the blue slipper? Can you fill me in on some of the testing or anything?
So there's a
Tell me.
lot of different ways that DNA can be tested at the lab. And typically how it was done back in the day, even currently right now, is we'll take like DNA swabs. We'll collect a sample from an object and send it off to a lab. But there are other things that we can do now, such as being able to pull off all the DNA off of it, almost like a vacuum, where we pull off more DNA that can then be tested. That's something that we have to work with other agencies with, but we can send that off and possibly get a better finding, a better knowledge of who would have had their foot inside of that slipper.
I got to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What has V said about the blue slipper?
So V hasn't said anything that I know of specifically about
Has
the
she
blue
been
slipper.
asked?
At
Hey,
this
V,
point,
what about this blue slipper? Do you recognize these?
so she's had several interviews, and we're talking. There's been interviews that have happened since from 2001 to now, where we've been talking to people. We talk to the family on a regular basis. We also talk to some of the witnesses who were at the apartment complex. We've talked to them a few times since then. We've talked with V, her friends, and his family. His family being one of the people who saw him last possibly could know something and not even realize that it could break the case. And that's why we keep going back and asking questions, because sometimes people will think this is what we need to hear, but they don't realize some of those small details can actually break a case.
Okay, we're going to pick up on that part of this conversation coming up after this. We want to know about that. What are some of the details that could, come forward because of all this continuing investigation? And we're also going to put up a number for the York Poquoson Sheriff's Office, so that if you know anything, we really want you to give that number a call, okay? And we will have more of that coming up right after this. And welcome back, everyone. Before I go any further, Michael, who is the producer of this, he's the brains of the operation. He says, "Hey, Andy, what about the peanut in the super?" Right there, the murder of Aaron Peanut Smalls. That's been up for the entire podcast. Can you please explain to us why he was called Peanut?
Well, his family and friends referred to him as that. That's what he went by. So no one called him Aaron. No one called him Mr. Smalls. They all called him Peanut. So when we're talking about a case like this, we want to refer to him by what he commonly was referred to, because that's what people are going to know him by.
Thank you. And there's the answer to that, Michael. Thank you. Now, I want to know more about V, and I want to know about anybody that may have had issues with V and with Peanut that may have led to this killing.
So we're actually working right now to solve some of these questions. We did speak with V, obviously, and we spoke with some other people that were associated with V, one of them being the father of two of her children. So her children have a father. I'm not going to mention his name, but we have spoken with him, and he didn't actually care much for Peanut.
Is this person, was he a suspect at the time?
He was a person of interest. That's what I would say. He was a person of interest, and he was somebody that was spoken to multiple times. We actually are able to place him with that vehicle at least once. And would I say that?
Hold on. Okay, so you can now put him in that vehicle.
We could put him near that vehicle.
Okay, tell me about that.
So we know that he at times would go and pick up his children from V. And they had a kind of a custody arrangement where they would meet at places, it sounds like, and that's where the custody exchange would happen.
And he did not like Peanut.
He did not care for Peanut. And we actually were able to locate a couple items within the trunk that appeared to have belonged to him. We actually were able to place DNA from him on those two items in the trunk around the same time that we found him. Now, that doesn't say that he did this, because there was a time period in the past where he would have access to that vehicle.
But he
allegedly.
didn't like him.
He did not
why
like
would
him.
his DNA be on Peanut?
So you got to remember too and we're not saying that this is the actual explanation, but we have to look at things and see what is available to us and what can we say might have occurred. And when you look in the trunk of that car, one of the things that was found was a stroller. And we got to remember that he was also going to have custody exchanges at times at different locations, and he would come to the vehicle and they would pull things out like strollers and stuff like that, possibly. And
Well,
that
who
is
did the
how
car
DNA
belong
could-
to?
Well, the car belonged to V. Now, Smalls bought the car, Peanut bought the car for V, his girlfriend,
Right?
but it belonged to V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going into the trunk. So did anything ever materialize with his connection with Peanut, the stroller, inside the trunk, and the slipper found in the field?
So nothing dealing with the slipper in the field. So we were able to obviously place those people together at the vehicle at some point. Not all of them, but at least some of them, such as V and the X and V and Peanut.
Yeah. Now, did this guy have an alibi when you were interviewing
He
him?
did have an alibi. Now, what I will say is that every single person that we talk to, we take that alibi. We have to actually try to figure out what we can prove from that, what we can prove to be true. Obviously, at that time, there's going to be a lot less camera footage, a lot less stuff that's documenting your movements as much as there are now. Even your cell phones back then didn't document your movements as well as they do now. So he doesn't have the ability to provide the same alibi as he would be able to today. His alibi didn't seem out of place, though.
Okay, your notes. The slipper looks similar to one found with Aaron's body, but it couldn't be conclusively matched. How
Correct.
come?
The technology at the time that was used to collect DNA
Right,
has gotten a little bit better.
Shotgun shell was also not able to be tested, but Aaron had been killed by a single shotgun wound to the chest. So while those pieces were suspicious, there was no forensic link them to the homicide.
Correct. Correct. In fact, the shotgun shell was found years after the fact.
Yes, it's amazing how this has just gone on. We want to put up a number if you know anything. This is a number that you can call. This goes to the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office. If you know anything about this, I mean, has there been a reward out for this?
There's not a reward that I know of. Obviously, the main thing here is the family calls in on a regular basis. We have to reach out to them on a regular basis to basically explain to them that this case hasn't been forgotten. We're still trying to solve this case.
Yeah, that's the current status of the investigation.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a cold case, but this is a case that I've actually been working on for the past 3 months with other investigators assisting me with this and taking the lead on some parts of this case.
What turned to get this kind of rejuvenated?
Well, every now and then we'll have somebody who just decides to go in and pull out some of our old cases. And when we do that, we will assign those out to people. And when it's assigned out to people, we take ownership of that case as if it was ours. So they get worked on a regular basis, even though they may have been years old, they may have run dry in leads, but a new perspective could bring new light to a case.
Right. Yeah, fresh eyes. Yes. Now, tell me about your cold case unit.
So we don't really necessarily have a cold case unit. Our investigators are what's known as general investigators. We work everything from homicides to the frauds. And when we have a cold case that gets assigned out, it's basically who's best suited with their niche to work on this type of case. And it gets assigned out that way.
Okay. Are there other cases that you're working on as well?
Not me. I don't have any other cold cases that I'm working on. This is the only one.
Sorry about my voice. All of a sudden, I'm having problems with my voice. But so, where do we stand right now, and what do you want people to do?
I want people to reach out to us if they know something. Peanut was somebody who knew a lot of people in the neighborhoods where he lived in Newport News. He knew people in York County, and he had left that day on the 25th. Somebody had to have seen him at some point. Somebody knows something that they haven't told us.
And I only got 30 seconds left. Has V been honest with you?
As far
Has
as
she
I know,
told you everything, left no stone unturned in telling you what you need to know?
so as far as I know, that is correct. But the conversations haven't ended there yet either.
Okay. What's the new conversation?
The new conversation is going to be to try to figure out some of this evidence that we're sending off, try to get some understanding of it. And I think her and some of her family are going to be the best people to speak to get that understanding.
Investigator Jesse Taylor from the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office. Thanks so much for coming in. This has been a fascinating discussion, as you can tell. I'm into that blue slipper.
I could tell.
I'm into that blue slipper. That was kind of a reveal there. So thank you very much. We've been putting up the number one more time as we're signing off here. Call this number if you know anything about the killing of Aaron Peanut Smalls. That number, 890-3630. I'm Andy Fox. Thanks again to Investigator Jesse Taylor for coming in. Appreciate your being here. That's this edition of Inside the Investigation. Please join us next time for our next podcast, going inside the investigation. I'm Andy Fox, 10 on your side. Thanks for watching.